welcome everyone to NerdWide.com's weekly podcast titled Hero Cravings, the Multiverse, where we cover and break down all Marvel TV shows, Gotham, Black Lightning, and Krypton, episode by episode for you, the listener. I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Chris Rivers.
I'm Gravitron.
Okay. Housekeeping this week. Don't forget to share, rate, and review this podcast on whatever whatever podcasting service you use. We're officially on YouTube, and we upload all of our episodes to there every week. So make sure if you want it in video format to subscribe to us at youtube.com/nerdwide. And don't forget that Chris recaps Blacklist and Blind Spot at purefandom.com, so make sure you check out his weekly recaps there. Don't forget that every Monday we put out polls for you, the listener, a way for you guys to vote with us and give us a little bit of your thoughts. And that happens on Monday, and we will read you our question for this week's at the end of this episode. Now, this is our first ever official 31st episode, and let me give you a recap of how the show is going to go down. Each week, we go through all the Multiverse TV episodes in order as they air. We bring you our thoughts and reactions to every one of those episodes. That being said, we're going to jump right into it with Krypton Episode 7, titled Transformation. I don't have too terribly a lot of notes here, but we start off with Jaina and another Sagittari running away from Brainiac's Sentry. Not really his Sentry, but more so the little tendrils that take control over everybody. We see that the Sagittari does not get away, but Jaina does. We see that Brainiac actually infects multiple of the Sagittari who planned that coup last week. We see that... What?
Let me ask you this. So, people that have listened to this before will know, because we've mentioned it. I love horror movies.
Right.
You don't. That scene, and really just the entire episode with the voice of Raoul being taken over by Brainiac, it had a really good creepy factor.
Yeah, I mean, it was creepy, especially the way his voice changed.
Yeah, but the totally black eyes, they did that really, really well. Were you freaked at all? Were you creeped out?
No, not really. And I guess I should have been, but his voice is what I guess chills me out more than anything.
Right.
Just because like he has his regular voice of Raoul voice, and then it gets very Brainiac-ish. And like it's never the same. It like interwebs with each other. But we see that Seg and Lyta say that General Zod is a known terrorist. So are we still alluding he's Black Zero?
No. What I picked up on in the episode is they finally kind of gave us some clarity. And again, maybe they did before, and both of us just missed it. He was leading, or he had kind of joined up with the Black Zero faction.
Right.
So it is a group. It was the group he was with, but he was only a part of it because he needed to get close to Seg.
He needed weapons and resources.
Yeah, right.
We see that Darren Vex comes clean to Brainiac about the coup and his part in it. Darren is the worst kind of person because he orchestrated this whole coup. It didn't work, so what does he do? He comes groveling back to the voice of Raoul. He finds out it is indeed Brainiac. And like he just bends over backwards for him. Basically save his own hide, and then Brainiac and Darren come to an agreement to have all the conspirators publicly executed. It includes his daughter Nyssa, but he said he'll take care of her himself instead of having her like publicly executed. We'll come to that later. We see that Adam goes back to the Fortress of Solitude to try to fix his Zeta Beam. Last episode, Seg, basically wrote him off and said, go back home or wherever you're from. He says, because you're not wanted here. So he goes to this Fortress of Solitude, talks to Val-El, and has a couple moments there with him about being a hero and stuff. Gets his Zeta Beam device fixed, and we'll get back to this later. We see that Nyssa gets arrested, and we find out that Jaina is a fugitive of the law. The way that Darren Vex is is webbing this lie and this coup is that Jaina was the one who planned everything to the public. And then we see Darren Vex go into his daughter's room, which of course she's arrested, and he tries to kill her. And of course,
Mhm.
she knew this. She put like a hologram there and then held him captive for a minute. But I'm just like the douchebaggery to try and kill your own daughter. Like
Yeah.
that's just such a big twist to me.
But the intelligence on her part to know it was coming,
Right? That's just
because
insane. I would have thought about that. You know?
he walks in and she's just kind of chill on the sofa.
Yeah, listening to her favorite song.
Yeah, and he aims that pistol, and then you see the glitch, and it's a hologram.
Yeah, and that was. She's a very smart lady. I love me some Nissa.
Oh yeah,
We
don't we all?
see. Yeah, well, yeah. Um, so we see that Lyda and Dev find out. Well, find Jaina at the little sword thing that, if you remember from 2 episodes ago with Jaina, that's where she killed her brother. Essentially killed her brother, didn't really kill him. But we find out that Dev is being controlled by Brainiac. He was, in fact, one of the ones who got caught at the beginning of this episode, but we didn't know that. We see Lyda shoot off Dev's arm in order to save her mother from being stabbed by Dev. Uh, is he dead? Is that what we're officially calling him?
Yeah,
Okay, just making sure because we had a. I like the actor, but
yeah.
I hate to see him go that way. Then Jaina then apologizes to Lyda for not believing in her and realizing that she is a strong Zod, and Lyda basically said, "Yeah, you should have believed me," and stuff like that. We see Jaina meets her grandson for the first time and asks him who his father is. That's one of the first questions I would have asked too. So Jaina, you get MVP of this episode for asking the good questions.
Right.
But Zod states he has no idea who his dad is, that his mom told him that his dad died a soldier in the Battle of Kandor.
So was that a lie or not?
Yeah,
That's
yeah, that's the question. I'm pretty sure. See, I don't know how that's going to work, to be honest with you. Unless.
I
I don't know how that works.
I think it's pretty safe to say he's not Seg's son.
Yeah, no, we're. I think we're there. That's not who his son is.
I wonder if she's pregnant at the time this is happening and she doesn't know it yet,
Right.
and Dev was his father.
Well, or is it because they had that
Uh,
weird birthing thing.
well,
'Cause-
that's true. Yeah. Well,
so I don't know how that
now
works.
what? Now wait a minute though. Was that for? Well, I guess technically they do have rank,
Yeah,
so
because they're
they're not
Sagittari.
they're not rankless,
Mm.
but I think the rankless still have children the old-fashioned way, shall we say?
I believe so.
Um,
So I don't know. I don't know the comics or anything, if it's even discussed in the comic books. But we just
but
know that General Zod and Seg's son, or Superman's dad, are best friends. So I don't know, man. It, ugh. Maybe she finds another lover, and because with Dev being dead, I don't know how this works. But we go back over to the Fortress of Solitude, and Adam gets his Zeta Beam device officially fixed from Val-El. He tells Val-El that he knows what he has to do because they had this big monologue about being a hero. What's it mean? It's not just nicknames and things like that. We got a lot of comic book references, Power Rings, obviously Green Lantern. He said something about tights and stuff. So obviously he's talking about he even said the Justice League. But he tells Val-El that he knows what he has to do. He has to kill General Zod and let Kandor be destroyed.
mhm.
So he's basically going to kill General Zod, but let the history still unfold as it was supposed to, which is obviously how time travel is supposed to work. But he then deletes everything out of Val-El's memory of why he was there. And then he pulls a quote from the Marvel Universe from Thor Ragnarok. And because Val-El said to Adam, he says, "Hey Adam, how can I help you today?" And he said, "Piss off, Ghost." And
Yeah.
almost the exact same way that Korg said it in Thor Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to do some research into that. I thought at first he was Korg from Thor Ragnarok, but that was, of course, Taika Waititi, the one who directed Thor Ragnarok, so it wasn't him. So I don't know if that was just like a fun pop culture reference or what. I'm going to try to reach out to the guy who plays Adam Strange, Sean, and see if he could comment on that, because I haven't seen anything about it and on social media, period. So I don't know. But the end of this episode ended with the voice of Ral offers to destroy the divide of rankless and gilded. We're at the very end of this rebirth festival that everything's going on. One of his followers, the voice of Ral's followers, tells the rankless that he's not what he seems. He's an alien from a different planet. He then walks into the fire and burns himself up, and then but floats and says, "I will destroy the divide of rankless and gilded." He says, "And I will make you all immortal, where you never have to die and feel pain." And everyone cheers for him. Of course, this was right before our party of Nissa, Kim, Seg, Lyda, Jaina, all these people were going to out Brainiac. But he basically did it himself, and that's how the episode ended. Now, this is what everyone's been waiting for. What do the numbers look like this week? Early numbers for this one is 0.2 rating, which is steady from last week, and 0.63 million viewers, which is up 0.03 from the week before. Still are not great numbers whatsoever. And then next episode is titled Savage Night, and we still have 3 episodes until the season, potentially series finale.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers definitely not great, but at least they're not falling still.
Yeah.
They've the rating itself is steady. The viewers ticked up a little bit, and again, those are just overnights. So
yeah, not
depending,
DVR.
Depending on how it's doing with DVR, it could be if it's tripling its numbers after DVR is factored in, it might be in better shape than we think.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy this show, not as much as our other multiverse shows, but I love the actors and the people, and I love the story of what they're trying to do. And they even said this week that this is officially part of the DCEU. This show is. So, I'm very curious, because that means that Seg is Henry Cavill's grandfather. So, and Adam Strange is officially, I don't know. So we'll see. Next show, which is a very, very, very fun one, is Gotham, Season 4, Episode 20, titled That Old Corpse. We see that we open up with Jerome's crazy cult following are above his grave and paying homage, all dressed up like clowns, of course, as they always are. And then we see a random masked Harley Quinn show up with one last message from Jerome, and he states, "I know you're all here, dig me up. We're going to do one last thing, dig me up." We see that Jerome also left a VHS for Gordon and has one last request for him: throw me awake at the GCPD. And at that moment, like right on cue, we see all the cult from the beginning of the show, all outside of the GCPD, trying to break in. We see that Bruce is meeting with Jeremiah about the energy device that we saw several episodes ago. That Bruce wants to grant and get Gotham going with this device. We see that Wayne Manor gets broken into while Alfred is the only one home. We still don't know the outcome of this. We hear a bunch of fighting and things like that, but we never saw Alfred. We saw a bunch of blood in the Wayne Manor, but we don't know what's going on. Gordon contacts Jeremiah and Bruce, well, Bruce mainly, about what's going on at the GCPD. He says kind of stay safe and everything. Jeremiah freaks out a little bit. He starts telling Bruce about him getting sprayed by the insanity gas from Jerome's little device. We see that Bruce and Jeremiah go to Jerome's grave and attempt to clear Jeremiah's mind on if Jerome is alive or not. They walk up to it, and in fact, it is empty because the casket was brought to the GCPD for the little wake that they were throwing there with his followers. This was a very nice scene. I thought it was very good for Bruce because he was trying to be the best friend he could. Well, he's trying to be the better friend that he could. And like, he's not alive. You don't have to worry about it. And he said, we'll go prove it to you. Let's go dig the body up, and it will prove he's still dead. Jeremiah is now panicking and thinks that Bruce is Jerome playing another trick on him. They run away to this monastery, and Bruce is trying to help Jeremiah. And Jeremiah's like, no, you're just another masked face that is Jerome. We see that Gordon goes to check on Jeremiah and Bruce because he couldn't get into contact with them at Jeremiah's place. But there is a video of Jerome on the screen, and the mysterious Harley Quinn puts a gun to Gordon's head and makes him watch the video. We find out that the masked Harley Quinn was in fact Echo, which further proves that she might be Gotham's Harley Quinn. Because from what I understand, from what I see that this show is doing, we're not going to get like a definitive Joker, and I think we're not going to get a definitive Harley Quinn, but I think this is all them paying homage to that, in my opinion. But with the biggest twist of this episode, we see that Jeremiah was playing everyone. Mm-hmm. He put a face mask on that made him look like Jerome, because he did get sprayed, but this was a nice twist. I had no idea about all this. He got Bruce he played Bruce like a fiddle, got him to where he needed him to be. And then he states that the generators that he built are actually bombs. And of course, there was one in Jeremiah's bunker, which is where Gordon was, and he blows it up. We see it in the distance. We see that Harvey saw it as well. He starts panicking because obviously Gordon was there. And that was essentially how the episode ended. We see Jeremiah and Echo walking into Wayne Industries, where there were like, what would you say, about 20 of the generators down there?
Probably 30 to 40.
Probably more than, they didn't show all of them. There was a lot. So, if you remember back to a couple episodes ago with Raish having a vision of the future, we see Gotham on fire. And I'm pretty sure this is how we're going to achieve that. Mm-hmm. So, but Chris, what did you think of this episode? Did you enjoy it? Did you love it? What do we think of Jeremiah as officially as the Joker, kind of, sorta? What are your thoughts on this?
I really like Jeremiah as what we think to be the Joker.
Right.
Jerome was just a complete loose cannon. The Joker's always been very intelligent in the comics. Mm-hmm. He's able to match wits with Batman.
And that takes a lot of intelligence.
And he's always planning out moves 4 or 5 moves ahead. Jerome doesn't fit that.
No.
Jeremiah does. And
he pretty much proved that this episode.
Yeah, and from what we've seen, and including the White Band trailer that's out there, Jeremiah is very calm about things. He's very calm, cool, collected. He speaks not in some maniacal way like Jerome, but he's just as if he's talking to a board of directors or something. He's very composed, but it's what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And he's definitely insane, but he's able to control it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To the point that makes him more dangerous.
Well, that's and we kind of discussed in the pre-show is like, I'm a big fan of Jerome's Joker. I know like you said, you are more so of Jeremiah's, but like Jerome is more of like a chaotic chaos, is what he likes. But Jeremiah is like a very controlled, chaotic villain. So it's like night and day with them, and I think that was the whole point of everything that they've done this season. So I don't know, man. I'm excited to see where the last 2 episodes go for this show. Of course, we don't know if they're getting renewed or not. When do you think we'll have answers to that? Within the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, we should get something. Probably not in time for next week's recording, but we'll have it the next.
Yeah, I would say
Oh,
stay tuned to our Twitter, because if it does in fact get renewed or canceled, that'll probably be the fastest way you'll hear from us on that. Um, if you live on a rock and don't like follow Gotham's TV show or anything like that on Twitter, but we'll definitely be celebrating or rioting, um, depending on the news.
right.
um, Early numbers: 0. 0.6 rating, which is steady. 1.94 million viewers, which is down 0.24. And then next week's episode is titled "One Bad Day," which of course is paying homage to Jerome's. He says, we're all just one bad day from insanity, which is truly, that's not wrong. But
Right.
I think Jeremiah's gonna try and make that one bad day happen to Gotham. I can't wait, Chris. I mean, it's we talked about renewals and cancellations just like a second ago, but with these numbers, they're most than most of the CW shows, and they constantly
Yeah.
get renewed.
Well, I don't want it to I don't want it to sound like a bad thing necessarily, but the CW has slightly different expectations
Mm,
when it comes to ratings than ABC, Fox, NBC, and CBS. It's just slightly, it's kind of sandwiched in between the rest of those networks and the cable stations as
right.
far as what it expects its shows to pull in. So, um, I it's going to be tough. I know we looked mid-season at Gotham's DVR numbers, and they were pretty good. They were pretty much doubling the live numbers, but we'll see how it changes.
I don't want the show to end, Chris.
I don't either, man. They're hitting stride now this year. I thought the first half of the season they had some good moments, but it was sort of that there were some tough episodes to
Yeah.
to kind of get through. Now they're hitting stride. You finally have your Joker character. Enigma has sort of turned the corner and become the Riddler full time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting to get some of these characters. We have our third Poison Ivy.
Who is missing yet
Uh,
again?
yeah, who hasn't been. I, they've got to bring her back before the end of the season, right?
uh, you'd think so. I wonder if
I
that
mean,
plays into things,
it could.
because I mean, she could somehow save or help ruin things. But let me ask you this. Now, the last time we saw Jerome and Jeremiah was, of course, Jerome's death, and he blew up the commissioner's head. Now, do you think we're going to see Gordon become commissioner now that the other commissioner's dead, or are you going to stay captain for a while and they just find some other interim commissioner? When do we
That's
like?
a good.
Basically, my question is, when do we see Gordon become commissioner?
That's a good question. Um,
I thought about that randomly this
I,
week, actually.
I mean, I don't know that you do it before the season's out. I think you almost have to let
Make
them
it a
get
season
through this
finale.
because, yeah, it's going to be a big, big deal. I could almost maybe you lead off next season if there is one with that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your first shot is you open with Gordon at the ceremony.
Hmm.
Um, but
Well,
I don't.
there's so I saw some pictures online for the rest of the season, and of course the White Band trailer, like you talked about, you can find anywhere on any Gotham site. But there's also pictures floating about of Gordon in his classic tan trench coat,
Mhm.
and him and Bruce are standing in front of a certain skylight.
Mhm.
So, of course, I don't think, because they don't really show the front of the skylight, obviously, I don't think there's a Batman symbol there, but
No.
they are definitely, he's dressed up like Commissioner Gordon, and they are both standing in front of the iconic skylight. So, I don't know what that means.
I mean, it could happen.
Yeah.
They're up there having a talk about. the city, and maybe Gordon's telling Bruce exactly what he wants to do to try and get things under control. And
Right, because at the end of this episode, we saw these bombs. So obviously, I don't know. The city's gonna not gonna have a good day coming up next week. In fact, it's
no,
gonna have one bad day.
yeah, you're you're so clever, Tyler.
Next show that we have,
Yeah, let's
moving
move
right
on.
on along, is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 520, titled "The One Who Will Save Us All." Uh, we start off right where we left off last week with Coulson and Talbot floating to the alien spaceship. We see that Mac is down below in the lighthouse, going around making sure all of these marauders, ravagers, whatever you want to call them, are actually dead. He comes across one who wakes up, takes a vial of black liquid, and gets superpowers. Just a quick payoff we got for this. It's actually called Odium, and it is the same exact stuff that we saw Cassius take at the beginning of the season, where he got little superpowers and stuff. But it makes it's kind of like a little last-ditch effort because it makes your heart explode under stress. We see that Talbot tells the Confederacy, or this little ship of Confederacy members, to kneel. They, of course, did not listen. They kind of laughed it off. One little person starts pulling some daggers out, and he smushes her into a little ball. We saw at the end of last episode that he did to some of the other Ravagers. And then, of course, these members of the spaceship do, in fact, kneel, including the which I've got his name here, the main member, the black guy who's in a lot of things. I thought I had
Well,
his
that
name. Kovas. Quovas.
did you really just say the black guy who's in a lot of things?
Yeah, he's in Kovas is in a lot of things. Peter Mensa. He's a great actor. I love him. He's been on a lot of things.
He is, yeah.
Spartacus.
Just the way you put it.
Oh, well, he's one of my favorite people, Animeus and Spartacus. But anyways, he kneels. He kind of becomes Talbot's right-hand man after this whole little scenario. We see Quake return to the lighthouse. She was trying to get in touch with him for about 30 minutes. Nobody answered, obviously, because they were on lockdown. She gets back, and Yo-Yo discovered that she found she's got a bunch of bones in this bag that she's carrying. And so Quake and Yo-Yo have a nice little fight out. Nothing came of it, of course. We go back up to outer space. We see that Talbot shaves and gets his new Graviton outfit. He's got a nice little thick goatee that's obviously the Graviton as well. Talbot then visits the Confederacy with Quovas and to renegotiate the terms that Hydra has set in place for Earth. He tells the Confederacy that he is Earth's mightiest hero, which is obviously a play on of the Avengers. Deke and Daisy have a nice little conversation, and then Daisy kind of looks over at her bed. There's a bunch of lemons on top of it, and he said, "Yeah, that's some kind of weird prank. I bet it was Fitz. Fitz and his type of humor." And it's kind of played it off, but we found out that Quake is still in love with Lincoln, which is pretty depressing because of Deke. Deke being obviously in love with Quake. But we finally got a nice little callback to Lincoln. We hadn't heard about him, since he died several seasons ago. And why she hasn't really moved on, because she's still in love with him. Then we finally see Cassius' dad. We heard so much about the first half of this season. He is a part of said Confederacy. Talbot asked them, basically who's the smartest out of all of y'all. And this guy steps up, and Talbot absorbs him, like how the Gravitonium does. He absorbed him. We found out that the Confederacy, this is, again, if you haven't seen Infinity War, this is not really spoilers, but it depends what your definition of spoilers are. We see the Confederacy knew about Thanos and Thanos' group attacking Earth, and they told Talbot that Thanos is already assaulting the world. Talbot goes, "What? Why didn't you tell me?" He says, "I need to go join the Avengers and help beat Thanos." Uh, the Confederacy said, "There's no stopping him. Even with your new powers, there's no way you could beat him." Um, so again, between if you've seen the movie, we're assuming all of what this episode and last episode, because we got a little mention of what was going on in Infinity War as well. We're assuming that between these two episodes, it's only been a couple of hours. So the big twist and the ending of Infinity War has not happened yet.
Right.
So I'm curious to see how it all plays out. Which eventually, Chris, I know for sure now because I know we had a question. I think it was last week actually about the MCU and everything and how it plays in. It definitely the ending of Infinity War is going to play into Shield. Period. I've got no doubt about it. But we're off of the we'll get off of the spoiler talk here. Then towards the at the very end of the episode, we see Talbot and Coulson having an argument because Talbot's got all this random power gone to his head. Uh, he told Coulson to kneel. He says either you are with me or you are against me. He says there is no ifs ands or buts about it. While he's taking the gravity out of Coulson's head or pressuring Coulson's head, and then Coulson does kneel. We see that the Zephyr does, in fact, go to space due to the gravitonium that Fitz was able to help, mess with that we saw in the future. We we saw that Talbot kills Hale and very gruesomely puts her into a ball like he's been doing. And I felt like this was a little more gruesome, I guess, because we know this character more. But General Hale is obviously dead and not there anymore. Meanwhile, we see Quake and Agent May raid this spaceship trying to help Coulson. Coulson thinks that, not Coulson, Talbot thinks that Coulson and the gang are against him, so now they are prisoners of war. And the episode ends with Quake laying on the floor of the Confederacy in Cassius's dad's company. So,
Yeah.
dun dun dun. What does that mean? We've got 2 episodes left of this season.
Well, there was I caught a brief glimpse of the preview. I believe it's for this next week, or it could have been a combination of the remaining episodes. But um, it's as if Quake realizes that the prophecy was true,
Right.
that she is the destroyer of worlds. I don't know if it's gonna like if how would it happen? Is Talbot trying to absorb her, and she starts quaking,
Right.
and that mixed with the gravitonium just splits the Earth in half?
Well, yeah, because
What's
I'm confused now because she's on Cassius' ship. So I don't know, or Daddy Cassius, rather. I don't understand. I don't know what they're doing because obviously we know that they love Inhumans and they pit them against each other and they're like their own little, gladiator esque fighting rituals. So
right?
I don't know how she's going to get back to Earth if she does get back to Earth or what happens really. But we got 2 episodes of this season. Of course, we don't know if this one will be renewed or canceled as well. I guess we'll find out soon. Early numbers 0.4 rating, which is steady. 1.62 million viewers, which is down 0.01. And the next episode is titled "The Force of Gravity." Um, we've said it multiple times. The writers of the show said that this season could be the series finale
Hmm.
because the way they've written it, or it just could be a season finale. They're still saying they could tell, but I don't know. I love Agents of Shield, and especially more so that they're actually acknowledging what's happening in the MCU right now.
Well, and what's got me questioning what's going to happen the rest of the season? They they've also indicated that fans will be happy with this finale, right? That it's
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of one of those finales that fans will be content with, they'll be happy with. So I don't know if they stick with the Infinity War storyline, where this, you know, half the population goes away. I, if half the team disappears, that's not going to make people happy.
Right.
So how are they going to? But at the same time, I feel like if they ignore it, a lot of people are going to be upset
Right.
because you're acknowledging what's going on in the movie, and now you're just gonna. The only way I think they can avoid that is to bring us right up to the moment of the finger snap,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the season ends.
Right. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm curious to see where this journey goes over, because again, we've got two more episodes, and then we're done. So, but Chris, before we close out this show, it is time for the fan favorite dishonor of douche canoe of the week. Who gets it?
It's Darren Vex.
Yeah, I mean, you tried to kill your
Come
own
on.
daughter.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Come on, dude. And on top of his wishy-washiness that he always has as well.
well, he gets on the side of whoever's in power at the moment.
Yep,
He's
he's only for himself.
yeah,
Now, Chris, who gets the glorious honor of hero of the week?
Nissa Vex.
Mm, mm, mm,
Yeah,
mm. Well, and like that's all we discussed while we're trying to think of this is there wasn't really like standout heroes out of any of our shows.
not on the multiverse, no.
No, and that was and with Nissa the way she kind of knew her father was trying to kill her, the way she met up with Seg, talked to Seg a little bit, got a little bit more character development for her, which
Yeah,
I feel like they need more of for Nissa. And I'm obviously Team Nissa all the way instead of Team Lyda, but that's personal preference.
right.
But yeah,
I
she.
understand, Tyler.
Yeah, I know. But Chris, what was your favorite episode of all of our multiverse shows this week?
Um, you know, it it came down to Gotham.
Hmm.
It just it was our first episode getting to see Jeremiah kind of jokered out,
Right.
like he's the the callback. I don't know if you caught this, the callback to the Tim Burton Batman film, right? Where he's got the handkerchief and he's wiping the flesh tone makeup away and revealing the white face underneath. The that famous scene from Tim Burton's Batman where Jack Nicholson's doing the same thing,
Hmm.
kind of wiping off the flesh colored makeup.
Right.
Um, I love that little moment.
Well, I
And
said I didn't realize that.
yeah,
Um.
I
Go ahead.
we got the Harley Quinn tease.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like that was kind of obvious, but without them like
yeah,
actually saying she's Harley Quinn.
and I was glad because when we first met Echo, everybody was saying, "Oh, is she going to be Harley? Is she going to?" And they didn't make us wait. They
Right.
kind they kind of put it out there like, "Well, here she is as a court jester."
Mm-hmm.
So
Potential.
have at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was. So my favorite episode this week was Gotham, and it was a tough pick between all three of the shows, honestly. But once I started thinking about it, it was a harder choice between Gotham and Agents of Shield. But Gotham with the nice little twist ahead at the end, the again like you were saying, the little nice little Echo Harley Quinn montage, and setting up what the end of the season's going to be. It just got me really
right.
excited, and so I had to go with the Gotham myself for
Yeah,
this.
and I think that even though we both picked Gotham, what you said, it was a tough choice this week, and I was thrilled with that because Krypton's just been struggling.
Yeah.
and and this seemed like this might have been their best episode of their season.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the pilot beats it out, but this might have been the best episode because we had more clarity of
Yeah.
what was going on.
And we need
Um,
that show needs more clarity right now.
yeah, it's a little bit jumbled. I don't know if it's our fault. Maybe it's something we're missing. I don't know if it's their fault. I don't know if there's you know bad editing. Maybe it's something going on in post with deciding what scenes to keep in or leave it out. But they have they've struggled with that,
Right.
which is a shame because it's a show that has a great premise and they've cast it really well. Um, you've got David Goyer behind it, so I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's no reason for this thing not to hit, and something's off. Um, but hopefully, now what is it? We have
Yeah, 3 episodes left of the season.
three episodes left, so hopefully it'll start to tick up. Maybe if it can get up there and hold a point four in the overnights or so, maybe sci-fi says, okay, it finally caught on.
Mm-hmm.
Point four we can live with. Let's bring it back for a second season, and maybe they can fix some of that. I know we talked pre-show, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier. Finally, they developed Nissa more than they had previously. I think the important part of her story in this episode probably equals the important parts of her scenes in all the other episodes combined. It just seemed like she was very relevant here.
She
The
needs to be.
scene where
She's such a powerhouse character.
well, and she's the fiance basically of Superman's grandfather.
Right.
So I mean,
And they
right
finally
now
got a kiss
she's
scene.
they finally did that. Um, I love the scene where they're all standing around the table and everyone's like, "We don't trust her," and Seg says, "Well, then trust me."
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
he
like
says that. He said like before that. He says we've all dirtied our hands, including Nissa.
right,
So
yeah,
nobody's scotch free here.
right,
Ugh, that's just such a. It shows you how much the House of L is, like what their integrity is.
yeah, and that's we know about Supergirl, we know about Superman, so now we get to see where it comes from.
Right. Um, we had last week we had our poll and the question was, and first off, I want to apologize because I only put the poll up for 24 hours instead of all week long. We still had 4 votes, but we would have much more if I actually would have done what I was supposed to do, right? But the question was, what do you think of the arrival of Doomsday on Krypton? 75% of you said fantastic addition, and 25% said not cool. Um, which I was the only one who said not cool. But so that was the question from last week.
Well, and real quick, let me ask you something. Were you disappointed? I'm guessing not because of your answer to the poll. Were you disappointed that Doomsday didn't appear in this? I mean, there was really nothing there for him
Well,
this episode.
my thing was I just feel like they're just trying to throw way too many characters into it. I know that they're trying
Right.
to like acknowledge the fact of these villains for Superman and everything, but I think you should have stopped at Brainiac and General Zod. Like
I th
I was
I
surprised with General Zod, but then I was disappointed with Doomsday. I'm like, okay, so this is Superman's third big villain. I
yeah.
mean, what are you gonna do? Have Lex Luthor appear next episode?
I thought what they probably should have done was instead of showing Doomsday, have have Jor-El mention him.
Right.
You know, just have him say, "Look, I there's a threat out there called." Maybe he could rattle off two or three threats, and he could mention Doomsday.
Right.
It lets you know that they know who this guy is, but you don't have to actually go to the point of showing him on screen. And
But
it's
he's
just
supposed to be the one that saves everyone from Brainiac and stuff.
you've got 10 episodes,
Right.
and you're trying to cram everything. You're trying to put too much in there. Just
Slow it
simplest
down there,
story.
Skippy.
Yeah, it's just give Nissa more stuff.
Yeah, I'm all for that. um, our multiverse question for this week is: are you willing to give Krypton another chance if it gets renewed, or have you written it off for good? Obviously, this is for the ones who listen to our multiverse show but don't watch Krypton. Um, so maybe you give it a chance and didn't like it. But again, the question is: are you willing to give Krypton another chance if it gets renewed, or have you written it off for good? And that will be posted on Monday on our Twitter. Um, Of course, that is it for this week. So make sure to review us on whatever podcasting service you use. And make sure you share our show around on every social media website that you use or your favorite one, either or. Don't forget to follow us on NerdWide on Twitter at nerd_wide. You can follow me personally at Ty_Haynes. And you can follow Mr. Rivers at MavTN7. If you do follow us on any of those, make sure you let us know what show you come from. And we would love to spark up some conversation and get some input from you guys. But, as always, I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with the man himself, Chris Rivers. And we cannot wait to share our thoughts with you next week.
Bye, people.